Welcome to CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast with Business Solutions MVPs George Dubinsky, Joel Lindstrom, and Sean the CRM Hobbit Tabor. This episode of CRM Audio is sponsored by Alexa CRM. WordPress powers more than 25% of all the websites on the internet and is the number one choice for blogs, websites, and portals because it's open source, simple to use, reliable, and extendable. Dynamics CRM has become a de facto standard in sales, marketing, customer service, and industry solutions. Now they can work together thanks to the Dynamics CRM WordPress plugin built with love by the Alexa CRM team. Capture forms, engage your users and customers, all without writing any code. Control your site in WordPress, keeping your data in CRM. To build the plugin, Alexa CRM has created an open-source Dynamics CRM PHP toolkit, unlocking the world of Dynamics for PHP developers. Download your 30-day trial from alexacrm.com/plugin and instantly create a portal by connecting your CRM and WordPress site. We thank Alexa CRM for their sponsorship of CRM Audio.
From a Dynamics 365 perspective, right? The whole Azure concept. Clearly, we're online, so that's part and parcel Azure. But how are we getting into really leveraging the cloud within either IoT, cognitive services, Power BI? Is it the data export service? You know, what for the average customer, what's their real first step? For the average consultant, what is their real first step, right? Because if you're just implementing Dynamics 365 just itself, you're not really getting into quote unquote real Azure usage until you start doing some of the like relevant search has a little bit because you're sending data out to Azure. Product recommendations. Some of the cognitive services, then you're starting to get into Azure. When you start playing with Power BI, you're getting into Azure. When you're doing the data export service, you're getting into Azure. So, what are those things that, where's that first step? Those baby steps to get your feet wet with Azure.
I think the data export service is one of them.
Right.
That's because I think anybody who has any kind of reporting needs that extend past fetch, for example, or helper tables, staging tables to help your data load or whatever, all that stuff, it's a really powerful thing. Then, like offline, mobile uses Azure. There's a number of different things, and I think that's only going to increase. So I don't know. What do you think, George? I know from a development standpoint, if you get into, Azure functions or whatever, there's plenty of options there. But what do you see in the real world people are using?
Real development?
Yes.
Well, people
real customers.
Look, yeah. Let's assume yes. In real world, well, it depends on size of the business, really, and pace of their development. Because when you're talking about enterprise projects, we immediately into long-term planning phases and so on, right? So whatever development you're doing today, you've been planning for it for at least 6 months. And you guys know that, right? So no one could foresee in 6 months ago the availability of the integration tools and development tools and so on, unless they have crystal ball or have Scott Guthrie's ear. No one could possibly foresee what's coming up. So
except for Neil Benson did. He predicted everything.
He always predicts everything. So
smart cookie, that one.
Yeah. The reality is that you couldn't have possibly planned for it. So now all the enterprise projects, they quickly turning around and scraping, the ideas and scratching their heads and saying, well, what we're going to do. So they in replanning phase, trying to make sense out of Azure Functions, and data lakes and Cosmo DB and AI and cognitive services and Cortana intelligence and all this sort of stuff. Suddenly, it's all like an avalanche coming out of research labs. Interestingly enough, so we did kind of pitch to a certain extent some of the features. Like I've been presenting, for example, web jobs using Azure and web jobs for CRM integration for the past, I think, 2.5 years or whatever, since web jobs were in preview. And I was saying that's the way to do it. That's the way to do long-running processes. That's the way to do one-off processing. That's the way to offload. That's the way to get rid of your servers. Not a lot of people listened, right? And then the next thing you know, the Azure Functions come along, which is serverless. Well, it's not entirely serverless architecture. It's for you. It's without a server to manage. Azure Functions come along, consumption driven. So for those who were pinching pennies and were, not wanting, who didn't want to go to web jobs because they said, we need to roll out our plan and it's going to cost us $78 a month and all we do is like twice a week processing, I cannot justify it, right? All those people suddenly turned around and said, hey, we can pay like $2.95 per month because that's all we consume. So now it's consumption driven, and that aligns well with the Microsoft Drive because they said, well, people not consuming plans, how we can make them to consume resources. So they made a consumption plan, right? So that was a good move. And now people, same people who were opposing web jobs or were not listening, they scratch and say, we should really move there. Well, I've been telling it for 2.5 years. So maybe this time around, people will start listening. I've done the series of posts on Tip of the Day, Scratch the Surface. So some ideas. I've got a couple more to come. So a couple ideas from Build, because Build is developer conference. Build defines what's yet to come. And I'm saying there's bigger and better things coming up in all those areas. So time to, stop, digest, listen, and look for what's coming. Because suddenly with all this partitioning into apps, CRM from the product becomes the same way as Azure became kind of consumption-driven utility. CRM suddenly becoming a utility. It's no longer product on its own. It's just a consumption-driven set of apps.
Yeah, and I think that your original question of what drives this and what makes this real to average company X, take CRM. I mean, people don't buy, as a general rule, solutions to a problem is what sells technology, not technology for technology's sake. So if you're saying, Power BI or machine learning or lifecycle services or Azure Functions, it's like if you were going to go buy CRM, you weren't going to say, I'm going to get some SQL servers, some SSRS, and some IIS servers. And, it's the solution to your sales process, your marketing process. So for one thing, is things like relationship insights and the integration with machine learning, cognitive services, as that comes as a general availability feature. That's one thing. And then all these other things, when we see actual solutions being built on it, and it just becomes part of the solution, and more of that goes to Azure. I think that's where it just becomes part of the solution to solution that's being implemented. Now, as technologists, we could get excited about that, and that's where we're already seeing so many great solutions become available that take advantage of that, like ISV solutions that are Azure based and that type of thing. That's the kind of stuff that's really going to drive it. And until that's a little bit more mature, then it's and we're already seeing things that used to be fuzzy out there data science stuff, like predictive analysis, becoming real world, and like with the discussion we had with Scott Sewell, where we can see real world examples. Now, as more and more customers implement it and those solutions get refined, and you've got more, shortcuts way to get there, that's where it really catches fire.
What drives me nuts is inability at this point in time to separate reality from fiction, because a lot of things that we're seeing is yet to materialize.
Right, they're very immature, very conceptually cool.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And even in, forget about, for a second, about demos that I've seen that build in the area of cognitive services, or Cirque du Soleil building a virtual stage right there on stage, as impressive as it was, right? Mm-hmm. It was hard to separate, movie effects from the reality. Mm-hmm. So which part of that was just video editing? Which part of it was real reality of AI, not AI, but hyper virtual reality and so on and so forth. So it was hard to separate that. The same way, to a certain extent, as we're having difficulty separating reality from fiction in our own backyard. For example, we've been all pitched Dynamics 365 for talents, right? Right. Is that a reality? I don't think so.
But they're talking about it heavy and hard, so they're pushing for it.
No, it will eventually come along the same way as PSA did, and interestingly enough, there's a substantial difference between, let's say, Field Services PSA and Dynamics 365 for talents. Field Services and PSA, Field Services was the product in its own right.
Correct.
Okay, and interestingly enough, now it's the most successful. PSA, no. PSA was built from ground up, and so was Dynamics 365 for talent, which will include LinkedIn integration, or Sales Navigator, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to put pieces together as in what I can do right now. We still have the same tool set that we had a year ago, and there's minor improvements in Field Services and PSA, but there is no breakthrough in either of these areas. So when it comes to real life projects, how you guys doing it? You're doing enterprise projects, you're doing large scale projects. How you guys cope with the reality? How you explain to the customers that, oh, no, forget what you saw on the preview. It's not coming out for another 17 months.
There's two parts, I think, to that problem. One is you get the whiz bang of the demo, right? And they get really excited. But then when you really start to talk to them, get hammer to nail, they have to have an equal vision for their own business processes or their own implementation in order for that, I guess you could say, synchronization to happen. Because you could build a really cool thing that does something, but if it doesn't really resonate to their business, then it doesn't matter how cool it looks. I could build something with HoloLens that looks awesome, but if it doesn't really add any benefit to their bottom line, it doesn't matter. So there has to be more than just the flash and bang. There has to be the substance within their business and their desire to move towards that new innovation, which I would probably say we're probably a couple years from that really taking hold completely. There's going to be a lot of nice little ones and twosies, and maybe some big initiatives happening in a kind of a lab or a supported way to where they're being pushed along that channel. But things like they just launched or they just released the Field Services app on HoloLens. Okay, real life, how many companies are going to be implementing that? Right?
Actually, Microsoft was demoing it. I'm not sure which part of it was true, but something like Japan Airlines moved all their field training to virtual reality. Like
That's what you want. You want pilots. You want pilots who have only trained on virtual reality.
No.
Simulator.
It's not about pilots. It's about servicing complex machinery like engines.
Right, but what I'm getting at is the HoloLens device itself is still cost prohibitive for that to be a mass implementation. Like Hitachi's not going to implement a HoloLens solution for a 1,500 seat implementation where 500 of those people have HoloLens.
Sean, you mean you didn't get your company issued HoloLens? I got that last week.
I missed out on that. I'm a little upset.
I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't have said anything about that.
Shouldn't have.
Okay. Well, I got real example. I was doing real work this week, guys.
Hey, good for you.
Okay. So here's the challenge, and the thing that the reality check you need to give yourself if you're in this line of work, which is you need to be aware of where it's going. You need to understand kind of how it works and be up to speed on it. But you also need to be based in reality. And so, for example, it never fails when I'm in a meeting. You have the kickoff meeting, then you start the discovery, and you do the demo, the high-level demo of Dynamics 365. The stuff that gets the biggest wows is the stuff nobody ever talks about anymore. The stuff where, now I can type in the lookup field. That's awesome, Yeah. And it's like that was 2011 or whatever. These let's CRM version 4.
Yeah.
And so, but then you need to balance that and look at, okay, a year ago when we started talking about this, we didn't have visual integrations. Well, by the time we're getting going, hopefully that'll be out. So we're at least going to take a look and see does that work. And the gamification solution was out, and they're big on user adoption. So looking at it, they do sales contests. So hey, let's talk gamification. So it's knowing how to bring it in, not being so enamored by the what's new you miss. So I'll give you another example. So if you are Mr. or Ms., I got to do what's new, and you think, we got to do customer insights. When a plain old CRM dashboard might be good enough for phase one and better than what they have. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of thing is you need both sides of your brain. The kid that's going, cool, wow, look at these shiny new things, and the realistic, safe, conservative guy who's sitting in the back and say, hold on now.
Right.
We haven't tried that yet, and balance those out. If you go too far the other way, you'll be the person who doesn't acknowledge the new Outlook app exists and has to do things the way they did. But there's a balance there, and that's where. And you need both those voices within the project as you look at the requirements and balance in. If you're bringing something new. Like I'm on another project where we brought the data export service in, and that's still fairly new and has a couple of rough edges still. Mm-hmm. But it had clear business value. We were able to quickly set it up and demo it and show, this will do the work. And even though we hadn't talked about that, it was kind of a no-brainer because it now took what we would have to manually do. Not that using Kingsway Soft to do that manually is a bad thing, but it took what would have taken X number of hours and made it feasible to do faster and better.
Right. And I think you're going to see probably 2018 as the year you're able to do more with what's being launched now, simply because either the requirements to implement that, the barriers to entry have been lowered because you have more references to other companies that have done it. You have, in the case of something like a HoloLens, that the cost for acquisition's gone down. But I'm happy that we're starting to see the time frame between those innovation periods, I guess you could call it, is decreasing. Whereas 10 years ago, it would take you 4 or 5 years before something really cool would happen. Now, it's happening much more frequently, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword, because to really be able to advocate that for your customer, you have to have some cycles to be able to digest that. And if you don't have an internal R&D initiative going, well, then you're just really dependent on your implementations that you're doing, and as these requirements come up. So it's just a balance that you're going to have to strike. And fortunately for us, being MVPs, 3 of us on one podcast, I just want to mention that. We have the ability to collaborate within the community and get that input that others may not have. So.
Yeah, I mean, you add us together, we've got like 19 years of MVP experience on this podcast. I mean, that's about 4 times more than any other MVP podcast. I'm just saying.
At least.
Yeah. I was just thinking what you've been saying, and from project management or from sales point of view, you've got more shiny things to point at. And I was just thinking about the video I saw the other day, the machine that basically builds the house, the brick house, according to the specs in like 2 hours or something like this. So it was ridiculous just watching it. And here we are. We've been laying bricks since 2005 or 6. And now new shiny machines comes along, and salespeople come in and jump up and show this video to the customer. Customer gets excited, but then we quickly realize that we don't have skills to drive those machines. We may be out of the job laying bricks. No one wants it anymore, but then how do we skill ourselves up in driving those machines? Virtual reality or connected field service, it's all nice and well, and we've been playing with it, but how you move from Internet of Temperatures, because that's what all demos are about, to Internet of Things, you do need to realize that as a developer you can't just put things together and magically works. No, you have to learn streaming SQL, you have to learn streaming analytics, you have to learn some things about Power BI, lots of things. You have to learn things about micro devices and IoT and IoT Edge and other things involved. So how you skill yourself up? So in my notes, I'm saying that what you can do is to distract things. It's power of distraction. Not destruction, but distraction.
Right.
I'm not saying that right, am I?
Yeah, no, I think I know. I think I know what you mean. But here's another example where the IoT example. You're right. Every demo is about temperatures on machines, but I'll tell you where we're seeing real world examples and projects we're working on is in insurance, and that's things like you get this. The insurance company gives you this device to put in your car and lowers your rates, and meanwhile they're monitoring how fast you're driving and all that stuff. That's real world stuff. So I mean,
but that's not new. Police been putting breath analyzers into cars of repeating offenders for years.
Yeah, but the difference is it's not the court making you do it. It's you doing it because you want to give up your autonomy over your ability to drive 100 miles an hour.
Well, but the point's valid. We really need to start seeing more actual diversification of examples in what can be done, as opposed to just measuring a temperature or measuring a salinity of fabric softener or whatever, water softener. I mean, there has to be, and I think again that just is going to take time for various implementations to occur and different innovations to happen and different integrations to happen, and it's unfortunate, but when you first get some new functionality or capability, you are going to see a lot of repeats of this same exact scenario, but maybe tweaked slightly differently. But that kind of copying or mimicking is what sometimes does create innovation, because you say, oh well, what if we did this, and but we have a lot more tools than we had 5-6 years ago. which is fantastic.
Right.
And the one really weird thing that happened to me today is one of my new projects is actually on premise, and I had to say to myself, "Whoa, okay, on premise, okay."
Is that the one I'm responsible for putting you on?
Yes, it is. And I had to say to myself, wow, okay, so I got to go back and I got to double check things. So I make sure I don't say, "Hey, let's do this," and say, "Oh, wait, no, let me walk that back." It's interesting because for a long stretch, I did nothing but on premise. And then
and better yet, go back and work in a CRM4 environment. It's like that weird town that you used to live in and you haven't been for years, and everything looks a little bit familiar but not quite. Yeah. But here's I would say I could map this out. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Joel. Yeah, you're obviously making fun of Hobbit working on premises, so continue doing that.
No, I wasn't making fun at all.
I wasn't making fun.
I put him on the project, so I'm not making fun. I'm responsible for him working on the on-premises project. So I was laughing because I'm responsible for it.
And my point was that there's so much available online now. We're starting to get, not starting. We get more and more online implementations than on-prem. So the frequency of the implementations that I've been doing, this is the first on-prem one I've had in a year and a half, maybe. So that's not a bad thing by any stretch of imagination. It's just now I have to reset what I remember and what I can actually offer to the customer, as opposed to with online. It's I know like the back of my hand what I can and cannot offer.
But imagine if you're Tony Stein planning the CRMEG Summit, and you've now got people 2011 or maybe earlier on premises of all flavors from 2013, 2015, and 2016, and Dynamics 365 online, and you got to plan sessions that will interest everybody.
Right.
It's not an easy job anymore.
Mm-mm.
Not that it ever was easy, but it's not. It's harder than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, kind of tying this together, I could map out the life cycle of, let's say, a CRM consultant or an MVP. Okay, because you're young, you're new, you're excited, you're really excited about the technology. So, like, my equivalent was when I became an MVP. It was in, what was it? It was 10 years ago, whatever that was. Version that was, I guess it was right after CRM4 came out, I believe, if I'm adding right. And then I was Mr. Connections when that came out. I was Mr. Goals, Access Teams. I was all excited, and I was the one beating the drum with my team that didn't want to use that stuff, and like, you got to use Access Teams.
Yeah.
But then you have something like Dynamics Marketing happen, where I got all trained up on Dynamics Marketing. I got all excited about Dynamics Marketing, and then we all know what happened with that. So from there, you have, it usually goes two rows. You have a disappointment of some kind. You then either get a bunker mentality and say, that's it, I'm going to stick with what works and I'm comfortable with that, and then you lose the optimism, or you get still excited about what's coming, but your experience kind of throttles that back a little bit. And that's I think where the right place to be. Know about what's coming, see the possibilities, learn about it, but keep yourself firmly planted in reality.
Right. There's an old hockey saying, you want to skate where the puck's going to be, not where it is. So it's right in a line. You want to make sure you know where the trend's going, so that you don't miss out, and especially as a partner. I mean, you want to make sure that you're looking ahead and understand what those innovations are that could potentially create IP or get you, unlock a barrier to entry for a vertical industry, any number of things. But at the same time, you don't want to be that, only connections guy. I mean,
I'm not buying that, like, where the puck is going, because first of all, we've got like 26 packs on the field, and which pack? which
right
pack and
now-
which gun. And
Right
hold
now,
on, and then before you corral all the packs into one pile, there's suddenly, a baseball ball appears on the field. It's like, hold on, what game are we playing? And
It's a
suddenly
metaphor, George. Don't take it too literally.
yeah, no, but I'm continuing your metaphor. I'm saying that it's incredibly difficult because not only we have multiple packs to follow, we don't know which one is real and which one is virtual reality. And suddenly we're no longer playing hockey. We're playing some kind of new game that's been invented.
Well, that's the whole part of knowing where the puck is going to be, because you have to discern whether or not you could think of it this way. Any future could have any number of pucks going any number of directions. You have to be able to intuit which one is the one where you need to go. That's where I'm getting at. I'm not saying there's 20.
And the great thing is gamification has a template for all those types of sports,
Yes.
including cricket and rugby. And George is talking about like all the different sports getting mixed together. For some reason, made me think of in the U.S. back in the 70s and 80s, they had this special event called the Battle of the Network Stars, where you would have
awesome.
Telly Savalas and Peter Falk playing, some kind of weird game. Then you'd have tug of war and all this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like what we are right now. Yeah. And so you're right. It's the game is changing, but my point was just you got to be realistic and you have to be excited and informed.
I figured out why we even changed the name of the product from
Why is that?
CRM to Dynamics 365.
Okay.
Even aside all the apps or creating kind of domains, app domains where you can create your own little thing that you run away with and your own little pocket of functionality that you consumption model, coming back to consumption model, you only consume what you need. I think there was another sinister plan, and that is when you look at the Gartner charts. We all look at them every now and then, and in the field of customer relationship management, there's always been two players, right? And lately it became like really two players. They come in ahead of the pack, and basically Dynamics CRM and Salesforce. And they in the top right-hand corner, and the rest is kind of going down or going left, and they're way behind. But for years, CRM has been lagging behind the Salesforce. So what do you do when you compete with the company whose stock symbol is CRM? Right? One of the traditional moves is you change the game. You're saying when they playing puck, and you say, no, we no longer, we're playing lacrosse now. So your puck is useless, and you can take your skates off, Gretzky. We're now playing lacrosse, So you move the cheese, you change the game, you change the rules of the game, you change the rules of the engagement, you move the goals, and you say, that's not the game we're playing. You can continue playing, but the rest of the world, moved on, and that's it. That's one of the reasons.
Right. Yeah, and it's acknowledging the reality that for several years now, a lot of CRM deployments had nothing to do with managing customer relationships.
Right.
Yes, and that's true, and that's where the second part comes in, and that is the power of distraction. Remember this dog in the animation Up? He was easily distracted by the word squirrel.
Yeah, Doug.
Yeah.
You remember that? The cute dog, and it's like, squirrel, boom!
Yeah.
And it's like, you need distraction. You need kofifi. Suddenly everyone is talking about it, and everyone is distracted from what the reality is.
From what's really going on, yeah.
Right.
What's really going on. And speaking of which, I am of the few selected people in the world who managed to get their own Covfefe domain. We now have covfefe.audio.
And does that point to anything?
Not yet. I'm waiting. What should it point to?
Just point it back to CRM audio.
Yeah, we can point to CRM audio, but I was thinking let's take the suggestion so people can send emails to tips at CRM. What's our email? Jar at tips,
okay.
CRM tip of the day.com.
There was some breaking news yesterday. Mary Jo Foley published an article with multiple sources saying that there's a reorganization going on where the CRM, or what we formerly called CRM, customer engagement stuff like Dynamics 365 is going to be moving under the BAPI group, which includes things like Power BI and PowerApps and all this BI and analytics stuff. So, and that Jujar are saying is supposedly going to be transitioning to a yet unnamed new position within Microsoft. So changes are coming, which they always do. Every July we have something gets reshuffled or rejiggered. I think immediate question is, if it's moving under that group, what does that mean for the future of Dynamics and Power BI? Will they come closer together? Will we see, I don't know, Power BI replace some of what currently is SSRS and CRM, or the dashboards? A number of things could happen, I imagine. But it makes sense because they're kind of following the same roadmap already.
But is what's been happening in the past? I've seen a couple projects like that where business users run away with Microsoft Access and create this little apps and put together, each app would have its own contact database and so on and so forth. And then they're saying, well, now we need to report on that. And then, they throw it to a report developer. What was the report writer of the day back in the days? Name escapes me.
You're thinking like business objects? Yeah, business objects, crystal reports, yeah.
Yeah. And then basically you see this poor developer crying in the corner because they trying to make sense out of all those quirky business models from 7 different data sources, and in the end of the day it comes up as kind of half-coherent report and business ecstatic about it. So do you see something like that happening? Like suddenly CRM as well-organized data storage no longer makes sense, and people put their own little Power Apps running away on their own custom CDS, common data services, and then basically it's all to a poor sod at Power BI team that tries to put together all those, disconnected little petty models.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta wonder, because there's a growing number of apps I'm seeing. Like one of the trending apps in the App Store was this app called A Company. I downloaded it to look at what it was, and the idea is it's similar to this other stuff where it's the idea of, instead of having CRM be something you do or you populate, it looks at like your email, kind of like Relationship Insights, gives you data from other sources, news stories, their Twitter feed. I think it even had some LinkedIn hooks in it as well. So, I mean, I think there's that. I've got to wonder, if we saw the real CRM market, how much is outside of the Salesforce and Oracle and Dynamics world, and is other apps and new apps taking the place. So that's where I think, for a lot of purposes, a Power App could do it. I do wonder, though. Here's the thing: have you played with Power Apps, George?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so here's my question. I found, as a non-developer, I found there were several things I really liked that were just intuitive. I thought the creating the tables on the common data the CDS, there were some data types in there that I wished were in CRM, and in some ways creating the fields was faster and more intuitive than going into CRM and creating them. But then when you get to the point beyond where you want to just have like a single entity or a single table on an app and have the menu, then it gets beyond what I think the average business power user could do. Like, I didn't see an easy way to create, you could create relationships, but I didn't see an easy way with the templates to have, like accounts, contacts, activities, and mimic that. That would take some work to do. As it gets more powerful, though, I think, and that gets worked out, and people build templates on it and things like that through AppSource and other places. Yeah, it could be. I could see a point where, especially if you want, there's a number of people that want to have salespeople that live on their phones. If you have a simple, easy to use, mobile app that can be used, I can see that being very attractive to, a segment of customers. Even big companies, you've got small groups within them that just want their own kind of thing just for them, and I could see it getting there. It's not there today.
I think what you just answered your own question. You're saying that it gets a bit complex and perhaps beyond the reach of the business user to create an application that covers accounts and contacts and perhaps opportunities or whatever you're doing with the Power Apps. But I think by using this approach of a single app, you're missing the point of Power Apps. To me, power of Power Apps, if I may say so, comes not from the fact that it's easy to build UI, but it comes from the fact that it's easy to build a very targeted single-purpose app. Mm-hmm. Right? So, for example, you're dealing with the customers. Don't build customer management app. Build a case submission app. The only purpose is to submit the case. That's it. You may use camera. You may use GPS. You can use some other features, perhaps integrated with your phone, and so on and so forth. Right? You may use AI to do face recognition, and instead of asking user to log in, but make it a single-purpose app. The single purpose is to submit cases. That's it. Not for managing, not for inquiring, not for following up. Submit. That's it, right?
But you would still likely, even on that example, you still would likely want a way to maintain a list of people, right? Because you're saying just a simple app where I type in the guy's name every time, George Dubinsky, he called, and you have that in an unstructured form.
But it's not for you to type in George Dubinsky. It's for George Dubinsky to submit his own case.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But now,
that makes sense.
No. Look, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. The point is that instead of a dynamic CRM application that can handle customer service, that can handle marketing, well, not that it ever could, but sales and this and that, right? Instead of that, we have a very dedicated apps. Okay, case submission app. Opportunity follow-up app.
Well, let me ask you this. I think to get to that nexus, the app designer really has to be enhanced to be able to not only create apps that the web can see, but intuitively, if you could have the app designer, you create that app and you select the form and you can configure the form all within the app designer, where you're not having to go to Power Apps or you're not having to go to Flow to integrate it. And all of that is within the Dynamics 365 UI. That's, I think, when you get to where you're going. Because right now, and it's in my opinion, to get to that point now, it's still a concentrated effort to get there. Right? It's not as intuitive for a business user to make that jump.
But that's because Dynamics 365 development team, they have to dumb it down to the lowest common denominator, and that being a browser. It's incredibly difficult to create a coherent environment using that denominator. Yeah, browsers become more powerful, but remember, they dragging along the, the 10 years baggage with it. 10 years old baggage. Well, Power Apps, where the advantage is, they created their own environment for creating those apps.
Right,
you don't run Power App. You run the environment. You run this Power App VM if you want, and then you run application inside of that environment. That kind of piggybacks a bit on my idea is that perhaps it's time to rethink Dynamics UI or UX altogether with the advancements in .NET Standard, where you can have a one code base and target iOS, Android, Windows, tablet, so forth. Maybe it's time to rethink and say, hey, look, let's step back. Maybe browser was good idea at the time, but maybe we can do better this time.
I see that, and I think there are. If they were designing Dynamics today, there's a lot of things from like advanced find and the way the forms, some of the legacy forms that haven't been updated, and some of the way it works. I do think though, once you get into business scenarios like an insurance wholesaler that routes things between different groups, that's not going to go to 500,000 different apps. Still have the need for complex processes. You still have a need for an application like Dynamics, but there's a lot that you don't. And I think you're right. Did you see, speaking of apps and kind of the app culture, did you see the video from the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference about the world without apps?
Yes, I have.
Where they hire the new guy and he's sitting in the server room of the app the app server farm, and he unplugs it to plug.
What concerns me most about this video?
What
is that? All it takes is one guy to bring the Apple server farm down,
and everybody's apps disappear, and a black market comes out, and there's hipsters driving around trying to figure out how to read a map and crashing. And the people start crushing candy in real life, and they're passing out paper selfies of each other, and it's pretty funny.
No, it was funny, but
it's Apple admitting that they made us dumb as well.
Yeah,
dumb and self-centered.
Unreal.
No comment.
Okay, so
did you piggybacking off that? Did you see the news that with Apple's announcement that they're having their own audio device with Siri, kind of like Echo and Google Home, but Microsoft's also going to have one with Cortana intelligence, and I think it's going to be like a JBL speaker or something like that. So the question, what I'm wanting to see is if they'll be able to integrate to where you could talk, like the old Star Trek movie when Scotty would go, "Hello, computer." If you could do, Cortana intelligence to Dynamics 365 from that speaker.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and it's going to be 3 times as expensive as the
Yes,
Echo.
It will. Yes, it will. Yeah.
So,
does any of you use Echo?
I have one, but I don't use it as well as Joel does.
I have the Echo, and I've got an Echo Dot in 5 different rooms in my house.
So what do you use it for?
Here's what I use it for. I use it to turn my lights on and off, which I could do with the switch, but I do it because my children leave their lights on, and so when I'm leaving the house, I can say, "Alexa, turn off all lights," and my Philips Hue lights go off. I also have it paired with IFTTT, and I have some various commands, like I have one for waking up all my, like each child. I have a wake up command that will blink their lights on and off and actually call their phone. I use the list stuff a lot, because if you are making your grocery shopping list and you're digging through your fridge trying to see what you want, I could just say, "Alexa, add sour cream to my shopping list," and she'll do it. And you can also extend it with IFTTT. You can make it email you the list, so you can add Alexa commands through there, and it works with the email stuff. Which I gotta say, Flow not doing that is kind of disappointing to me. That makes me have to use third parties.
What I got from this is that you've got last century fridge that doesn't even know that you're out of sour cream.
Does your fridge order your stuff for you?
No, I don't allow it to order yet. It just
yeah. It will also set my security system. It will not turn it off, and I think that's because they don't want people standing outside your house yelling in to disarm your security system. Probably a good idea.
Is it on now?
Well, no, because when I'm living in Seattle now, so I turned off my Wi-Fi and unplugged my router.
Brilliant XKCD cartoon where the first thing you do when walk into someone's house to make sure that they're not eavesdropping on you is Alexa, buy 2 tons of cream corn. Alexa, confirm the purchase.
I did order a pizza using Alexa. I ordered pizza from Pizza Hut last week. It was great.
And I have things like...
Actually, speaking of which, these food ordering business is kind of funny without the location tracking, because my daughter was at someone else's place and they did the Uber Eats order, but I think she forgot to change the location from the last place she ordered.
No.
And the next thing I know is a knock on the door and the guy is saying, "Did you order food?" Around lunchtime, and I say, "No, but I can take it. Is your name is X?" And I say, "It could be for food." Yeah.
Sure. Depends on what food's there.
So then you told your daughter, "Thank you for ordering your food."
Yes, that's what I did on the phone. She called me like 2 minutes later. Said, "Did you get the food?" I said, "Yes, thank you."
That's hilarious. That's funny.
So George, have you been leading any training classes lately?
No, not lately. We actually doing right at this moment. We doing planning what's to come next year. Well, next financial year. So what's yet to come? Because currently it's kind of quiet period, being summer in Northern Hemisphere. So we're taking it as time to review and adjust the classes and adjust materials to include new things that are yet to come. Something like Business Edition, which we haven't seen yet. And some people say it's Navision, some people say it's not Navision. So I'm really confused in there. So I'm kind of waiting to see.
How do you decide when it makes sense to have a Business Edition class, without knowing what the adoption of Business Edition is going to be or when the first customers will come on it? How do you plan the timing of that for the new stuff?
Now, look, I don't kind of reach into my own pocket and say I'm ready to invest into Business Edition now. I'm kind of trust Microsoft on this one, as in there's a marketing wave and then there's a technology wave that is coming through, and once we get our hands on Edition, then we should be able to put together a proposal to do the training and kind of some draft agenda and syllabus for the training. Once this is going together, then the scheduling comes along, and scheduling of training classes is purely demand driven. If it's not getting scheduled, then okay, you wasted some of the efforts on creating agenda, syllabus, and perhaps draft materials, but that's life. So it's all kind of demand driven, and scheduling is done well in advance. So if some training to come, let's say in October, expect decisions to be made around August, early September timeframe, the latest. So
it's kind of interesting, thinking of Business Edition as the lower option, because in other cases I could think of, you had the regular version, and then the Business Edition was like the fancy edition, or it's like the professional version. Because it seems just like that's kind of weird to me. It seems like backwards in some ways.
Look, I
It
wish
seems like you have like
some
regular
people
and then
wish
business.
this edition never happened, so it's kind of very confusing, and it's kind of envy would go both ways because business edition is gonna envy, let's say, some part of operations. I'm just speculating, not that Navision is much more. But on the other hand, what do you make out of marketing being in business edition and suddenly in enterprise you've got nothing? Oh, you've got Adobe,
I'm
but
I'm not happy
everyone's got
about that at
pockets.
all. I'm not happy about that at all because what I don't like is the standard out of the box marketing pieces within enterprise. To your comment a little while ago, that's fine, but it doesn't really fill the marketing need. It doesn't, it falls short. And if there's a newer, more effective marketing component in business, which I haven't even seen, so I can't even say if it's more effective. But the point is, if it's different functionality, it would have been good to provide it in both and not shortchange enterprise, because in my opinion, the Adobe solution is a full marketing agency solution, right? And you could chop it up, and you could.
The word
well,
expensive.
yeah, and you could chop it up and get the pieces and parts, but that's not an effective solution for most enterprise customers. You don't need the whole marketing agency because most marketing divisions are not going to go with a single solution that's the same as their CRM solution.
Correct.
Large enterprises are going to go with big box, well-known, well-identified marketing solutions. So.
And there's still a lot of big businesses running their marketing solutions out of Excel too.
Yeah, absolutely there are. I
just talked to
now,
one.
Now I know what Hitachi runs their marketing solution.
I just talked to one that was a surprisingly large business that was doing their marketing blasts through Outlook Mail Merge.
Oof.
I'm just saying.
Oof. But the question that I have is with business. If it's not fully baked yet, at what point in the business cycle, and you George, you may be able to answer this, at what point in your business fiscal year do you start to get concerned because people stop buying enterprise licenses because they know it's not going to, you can't downgrade from enterprise to business?
Look,
it seems like
I'm not marketing specialist, but splitting your own market is never a good idea.
Right.
Well, I would say it seems like this all follows trends in technology because for years with various platforms, Microsoft has tried at various points to take an approach to take an existing product and have a scaled down version, whether it's Windows RT, we all remember that. And now they did away with that, but now they've got the Windows 10 S, which is kind of like it, only it's, I guess you can upgrade it, And same thing with Office. You had all these different versions of Office where if you had like a home version of Excel, it didn't have certain functions in it and that type of thing. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it just increases confusion. I think the biggest concern people have, and again, it's early, we haven't seen it, is if there's no clear way to migrate, or if I have to start over again, or if I can't use the solution for Business Edition in Enterprise Edition, I don't care so much about the downgrading. I mean, if you're needing to go from Enterprise to Business, your business is not doing that well, and that's not going to be the likely scenario. But it seems like a never-ending battle of should we take this mammoth thing and just scale it, lock it down in a cheaper SKU, or do we need a different platform?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the current challenge is not so much Business Edition versus Enterprise. The current challenge is that it's Enterprise versus unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Business Edition, the finance and operation side of things, it's not a lightweight. You can't say that Navision is a lightweight of AX. Right? They're two products They target slightly different markets, but remember Project Green or Project Blue, whatever color it was. They tried to merge it. It was literally 10 years ago. They tried to merge it. It didn't succeed because customers, revolted and said, no, we're not going to have it. We bought that product. We like it. We love it. There was a customer base who driven this decision out of the existence. So Navision and AX, or Nav and AX, continue to coexist, and they still do. And now they shoehorned into Business Edition, Business Finance, whatever it's called, and Enterprise Operations. But either one can do the job for any company. So it's as confusing as ever. To me, the biggest question is it's enterprise versus unknown. It's kind of can't wait to get my hands on the Business Edition, because for developers, it's still unclear what the extensibility model is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. I think, and the other thing is, if you've ever done integrations or developed integrations with the various Dynamics ERPs, it's been years since I've done it, but I did Navision, I did. I think I even did a Solomon one time, and the difference is, like AX, at least from what I remember, the tables and fields were named somewhat logically, where when you get into Nav, Nav, I believe, was a European product that they acquired. Am I right about that? Because the table naming and things like that is much different, and it's a different world, and the different Dynamics ERPs are good for different things. So, like GP, a lot of people used it for supply chain management. Navision had certain types of companies that was a great fit. AX had certain things, industries it was a better fit for. AX has always been the closest as far as the look and feel and the table structure to CRM of any of the ERPs. So that's what makes me wonder, again, if it is Navision based. Again, we're just speculating. We don't know. We haven't seen it. We have to wait till we see it.
Indeed.
This has been CRM Audio, the Microsoft Dynamics CRM podcast. You can hear previous episodes on our website, crm.audio. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at CRM Audio, or leave us a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/CRM podcast. If you have any topic suggestions or questions that you would like for us to answer on a future episode, please drop us an email at voice@crm.audio. Special thanks to Dale Simmons for our theme music. Go check out his website, dalesimmons.com. Please join us next time on CRM Audio.